Welcome back to the VHS Vault. I'm one of your hosts, Jason. There is my other co-host, Jason, right there. And this week we are talking about a film that's very dear to my heart in a very emotional way, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, Jason, I've got I have an emotional connection for this film, because this film for me took me from being really afraid of horror films to completely falling in love with horror films. For some reason, this was the film that I went back at and went, this is cool. I'm terrified, but I'm having a great time. What about you, Jace? What were your memories of this film?
I have a very weird history with the Nightmare on Elm Street movies because I did not watch them in order. The first one I watched was actually part 3. And then
Ooh.
I made my way backwards and forwards and kind of ping-ponged back and forth. So I actually did not watch the original until I was much older. Now, I will say it's a very interesting progression to start with the later films and then go backwards to this one, because this movie is, compared to the other ones, very sophisticated. And I would even say it is very abstract in many ways. And it uses that abstraction and it uses that surrealism to its advantage. The Freddy Krueger we see in this movie is very different from the Freddy Krueger we see later. And I would take the very bold step as saying that this is the superior Freddy.
Ooh. I always used to phrase him as, this is a mean Freddy. Like, Freddy's always mean, but this is Freddy at his rawest. This is Freddy at his most terrifying, I would suggest.
Yes, this is before he put on the clown shoes.
Exactly. We get a few quips here and there, but he is really dark and disturbing. And for me, this film, even though it got me to completely fall in love with the horror genre and I've become obsessed with it, this has such strong first hour of this film, is to me holds up today any point. Some of the imagery in this film, Jason, some of the concepts they deal with are so good, so well formed. And it starts at the beginning of this film, doesn't it? Because the introduction of this film, before even the credits really start to roll, is showing the formation of his main weapon.
Yes.
The glove, which I love this moment. And for many movies, well, not for many movies, but a few movies, this was the only kind of footage we got to see of Freddy before he gets killed as such. You know,
yes.
Freddy
before Freddy, yes.
Freddy before Freddy. And I really appreciate it because you have this scene, Jason, and then we move straight into the introduction of Tina in a dream sequence. Really sets the tone and really sets the horror and terror in this film straight off the bat.
I appreciate that they do a little switcheroo about, 20 minutes into this movie, where you spend the first 20 minutes thinking that Tina is the protagonist. And then the movie says, no, just wait. And butchers her in a very disturbing and very surprising way. On what Wes Craven called the Ferris wheel from hell.
We'll get to that, Saint.
Yes.
We'll get to that. But the whole idea, there's so many strong visuals in this. And one of them is not only Freddy as a character himself, which is great design, great look, the idea of the finger knives, incredible. But it's the setting of a lot of this stuff, a lot of the horror takes place in a boiler room.
Yes.
And a boiler room is just a great place to have something that can be quite terrifying. You can't always see from one end to the other boiler room end. So there are lots of little alcoves and little places that can really work with these scenes, which I really, really love. So we go from the gloves being made, Jace, to Tina having a nightmare, to this, which is probably more creepier than anything else in this franchise
Yes.
are these little girls and that damn poem that they do, that little song.
That damn poem, which is credited to Heather Langenkamp's boyfriend at the time.
Really?
Yes, he is credited as being the composer of that poem, and the little girls were actually living in the house that served as the exterior of Nancy's character. Heather Langenkamp's character. Wow, I will learn how to get my stuff together here in any minute. Let's talk the boiler room for just a minute.
Yes.
The boiler room was shot in the basement of Lincoln Heights Jail in Los Angeles. After production wrapped, the jail was condemned due to high levels of asbestos.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Yep. They didn't
But
do.
you
They didn't go back there
sacrifice
for
for your
film
art.
too, did they? So
No, they did not.
no, definitely not. But it is a great environment. It works so well. Did you ever hear about how Wesley Craven came up with this?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did you find out?
I know that Nightmare on Elm Street technically is based on a true story. Over a 3-year period, a group of Southeast Asian refugees from the Hmong tribe died in the middle of nightmares. These were healthy men that had such vivid, horrible nightmares they refused to sleep. Whenever they finally passed out due to exhaustion, they died in the middle of a nightmare. This happened several times, and whenever an autopsy was done because they thought these men died from heart attacks, turned out no, they did not die from heart attacks. They just simply died. Authorities called the phenomenon Asian death syndrome, which was a variant of sudden unexpected death syndrome, and Brugada syndrome. So yes, Nightmare on Elm Street, technically based on a true story. The inspiration for Freddy Krueger came from two places. One, Wes Craven had a encounter with a man who he was terrified of as a child who had burns. And he described this man as an alcoholic hobo. And so that's where the hat came from. Freddy Krueger was originally going to wear a trench coat, as this man from Wes Craven's childhood did, but then they got rid of it and went with the stripes instead for a very funny reason I will get into later. But the claws came from a dream.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yes.
So all those elements come together to create. See, we take it for granted now because this series has been around, as from next year, 40 odd years, right? It's got a,
Yes.
you know, it's 39 years old, this franchise at this point. So we're used to seeing that. But there was nothing like this character at the time,
No.
Jason. We were used to seeing people with hockey masks. We were just used to seeing with William Shatner bleached masks. We weren't seeing this type of horror villain. And it was such an idea. And it's actually really hits to most people because we've all had nightmares.
Yes.
And we've all known the feeling of being terrified in nightmares. So it hits something personal to everyone, I think, that watches this film. Because we've all kind of been there. There's a very ethereal feel in this film, isn't there? Everything.
There is, yes.
Everything, even in the real world, still is shot and played in a dream state almost. Which works very well and is purposely made to confuse you, especially in the third act. But before we get there, the introduction of our guys, our main peeps.
Look at the baby!
Yeah.
The baby Depp, look at him! Oh my gosh, he's such a baby!
Who, by the way, plays the most vanilla character in this. The only time you ever get to see Johnny Depp playing someone vanilla is in this film. Even his name is vanilla, Glenn.
He had to start somewhere.
He did, but he plays it really well. Even
He
if
does, yes.
You're watching this film, Jace, you're going, you could see the kernel of talent there. There's no doubt about it. This guy was gonna be
absolutely.
somebody.
Absolutely.
The guy in the back who plays the real, not the nice guy, I'd seen him in other films before as well. I can't remember the actor's name.
The only place I can remember seeing him was in Wildcats with Goldie Hawn, because that was another movie that I was forced to watch over and over and over again. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's a good movie. I just don't like sports movies. But my brother loved them, and we watched that one over and over and over again, which is very strange because he was like 7 and I was 10, and there's full frontal male nudity in that movie, and I'm just like why are my parents letting me watch this? Because it was about football, and football was king.
That's right. You know, back to this one though, they move this plot along pretty quickly, right? Because
they do, yes.
We don't really muck around because within 10 minutes we've got the friends staying over at Tina's place to be there for Tina, who's really struggling with dreams at the moment. And no one else is really talking about it, but we don't know this at this point, but she's not the only one.
No. I like how they slowly put this together, because it's something that I think that people would naturally be skeptical of. And even though nobody comes out and does the whole, well, this is crazy, nobody does that speech, you can see it in their head, like, wait, you had a dream about a dude with knives fingers too? A striped sweater? Really? A burned guy? You had that dream too? So, yeah, they kind of go over the whole this is crazy thing internally, and they're just like, yeah, there's something going on here.
And when they go and stay over there that night and they're having a conversation on the couch, Jace, that's when we get out, the first bit of information starts to leak out, where Tina and Nancy realise they're dreaming about the same person.
Yes.
Which already starts that little bit of intrigue. And it creates this vibe when the fact they send poor Glenn out to the backyard because they hear a noise. Even that is creepy, you know? I mean, it's a black cat scene, what I call a black cat. It's a jump scare scene.
Yes, well, you know, that's why cats were in horror movies, just so they could jump at people and go...
But he's the black cat here, this guy here, and which is... My only fault in this scene is she's so terrified, Tina, that she needs someone to come over. But the hot boyfriend comes over, and her focus is now a little different.
Yes.
Just like yours at the moment.
Sorry, it was a black cat.
The black cat moment. Yes, there you go.
Tina, unfortunately, commits the cardinal sin in a horror movie that pretty much dooms her. Is she got a little something.
But, you know, I'm glad we had that scene because it pays out in an awesome dream sequence where Tina gets her ultimate demise. I particularly, because I think this is the first scene we really get Freddy kind of showing to us, is the alleyway scene where she's going down the alleyway. And the first time we see Freddy was with those long arms.
Oh. I don't know why that scene... That scene was shown in a trailer that they put on TV, him walking down the alleyway. So I had not seen the movie, but something about Freddy with his arms stretched out was so disturbing to me as a child. That's, for a while, I would walk out. I was always told I had to go take the trash out to the bird barrel. So I'd take the trash out, and that's all I could think of is whenever I went into the alley is I'm going to look down there one day, and Freddy Krueger is going to be coming towards me with those big, long, outstretched arms, and I'm gonna soil myself, regroup, and come up with a new plan that involves retreat. And You
know, a little side note with that, because it's in this scene and it's throughout the entire movie. There are iconic sound effects that we don't realise sometimes. You know, we have the Wilhelm scream. We have the laser sound from Star Wars.
Yes.
We also have the knives scraping against metal. That really works, Jason, in this film.
It's so unnerving.
That's the whole idea, is to make you uncomfortable in the moment, and it works so well. And that's what the long arms are doing. They're scraping along, and we get that sound effect. What also is fantastic about the scene is when Tina comes face to face with him, and we kind of get a close-up, the first close-up of Freddy. Like, that's really scary, Jace. The way they lit him, his makeup, as we will find out throughout these films, changes every film. Like, his face is slightly different in every film. really is mean and sinister in this one. And especially that moment where he goes, Tina, look at this. And he grabs his hand and cuts all those 2 fingers. It's all this green goo that comes out. Scary. I remember that terrifying me as a kid.
He is like a psychotic 10-year-old in that scene. And it's so funny because I always talk about how I don't like Freddy when he's clown shoes. But to me, that's the perfect amount of just black humor because he's enjoying what he's doing.
This is the big thing, isn't it?
Yes. There's no
big thing.
No, I'm playing with power. There's no pop culture references or anything. It's just a very bad man enjoying being a very bad man, much in the same way I'm sure John Wayne Gacy and Jeffrey Dahmer enjoyed being very bad men. And I also have to talk about the great on-set practical effects. And I know we're a little bit early for this, but there is a scene in this movie. I'm going to back us up just a little bit. There's a scene in this movie where Nancy's asleep and Freddy pushes out of the wall and just looks at her. I know I'm early when I say this, but they recreated that scene in the remake that they did with Jackie Earl Haley, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And they did it with CGI, and it is so inferior, and it looks ridiculous. This scene where they just basically had latex stretched and just lit it so it looked like a wall and just had a performer lean into it is perfect.
Such a cheap, probably special effect, but so effective, Jason. That is one of my favourite moments of the film. That I love that. And they did it all in one shot. If you remember, he goes in, he comes out, she's laying, and then she wakes up and knocks on the wall.
Yes.
So it sounds solid. And do you know how they did that, Yep, latex wall, and she would have known, all right, just below from the cross here, we put a bit of wood. Just knock on that.
Yeah, it's cheap,
brilliant, but it's perfect.
It's brilliant. I love practical on-set special effects. I think that they just look good.
They are chock full in this film, and
even something that is unnatural still looks natural in this scene.
Yeah, and throughout the entire series, to be fair, the practical effects are fantastic.
They are. They are.
Going back to that scene, that one where he cuts off the fingers, right? Normally in a horror film, that's your horror moment, and you move on. But this film, they take the horror and terror and they amp it up to 11 because now we're getting to see, what's it, Bobby? What's his name? Bobby? Rodney. Yeah, Rodney, we get to see Rodney's perspective as he sees Tina freaking out. And as you called it, what was it, the Wheel of Death or something they called it?
Wes Craven called it the Ferris Wheel from Hell. And they actually use it twice in this movie.
This is unbelievably terrifying, so well performed, and he doesn't move the camera, Jace. We're just watching it happen.
In case you don't know, I mean, the entire room is on a very large gimbal. The actor who played Rodney is strapped down, and so is Wes Craven and the camera. So you don't see the room rotate because the camera and everyone else is rotating with the room. The only one that is not strapped down is the young woman playing Tina. And it is visceral and it is brutal. And there's so much symbolism in this. The guy who plays Rodney is just in his tidy whities and he is completely helpless as a baby. And all he can do is sit there and scream and watch it happen. And I think that really drives home the type of threat that Freddy Krueger is, because unless you are in the dream, there is nothing you can do. There's absolutely nothing you can do.
So, and just the reaction of Nancy and good old Vanilla Glenn, even there, just like the amount of blood in that room afterwards was just, you can look at it and go, that's ridiculous. But man, at the time, it was so effective.
Oh, come on. There's a lot of blood in the human body. Did you know that if you took every blood vessel and capillary and vein in the human body and laid it end to end, that person would die?
I noticed you were looking at Battle Cat because Battle Cat goes, yes, give me more information about human blood.
I require more information about human anatomy. Tell me your weakness, human.
Okay. I'm a big John Saxon fan, so to see him in this...
yeah. Hello.
I'm loving it, because I'd say he was one of those guys you'd see in these kind of B-grade action films of the late 70s, early 80s. The mum, who I've never seen before, I'm going to give props to her. She is as weird and spaced out as she should be in this film. She is wonderful.
Well, she's supposed to be drunk, so yeah.
Yeah, there is a great, so drunk that, and I don't know why she feels the need to hide vodka bottles in the linen press. Who's she hiding it from?
You got to hide them somewhere.
Well, at one point she's in the kitchen, she's got a bottle of vodka while she's talking to Nancy. The next minute she's pulling them out of a linen closet.
Yes.
But there you go. But the parents I really like. The denial early on of anything but just being an accident. The kid did it and all that. This film in many ways is a commentary about middle-class boomer generation.
Yes.
And as we get to find out of the closets and the secrets that they kept, which was, something about the boomer generation they did, quite a lot.
Well, there's so many urban legends in so many small towns, at least here in Texas. I don't know, maybe this is just something weird about us, about a criminal who gets away and the town does away with him quietly. Everybody has a relative or somebody who was a part of it. I have some members of my family who supposedly were there whenever this person was taken care of when the courts wouldn't. Is it true? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's another one of those things, that Wes Craven heard it as a kid and just incorporated it into this movie.
It's funny because they play that out as well in Halloween Kills.
Yes.
They really play out the whole town.
I have not seen that yet, but maybe if later on, if we ever visit Michael Myers, I can finally get caught up on the Halloween movies.
On that. Well, that wasn't a massive spoiler. Most of the film's about it. Anyway, can I just little kind of laugh out loud moment? There's a moment in the kitchen where the mother's and Nancy's bugged the hell out, right? Like she's seen her friend just absolutely slaughtered. So she's still trying to deal with it. And at the moment when there's TV's on and they're showing the body being taken out, and I'm just like, I laugh because of course the news cameraman shows the moment where the arm falls out perfectly.
Of course.
Like, that's not making it on the morning news.
No. I actually studied journalism in college for a while because that's where I was going to go in my life until my life went horribly wrong. And that was something in ethics class that we were always told was never show bodies. Never show bodies.
Yeah. Nah, it's very exploitive for sure.
Yeah.
But straight away, I like this movie moving pretty well. For a very slow, ethereal kind of feel, movie kind of moves pretty quickly. I like the fact that Rod, brother of Todd, grabs Nancy straight away and, saying to her, like, I didn't do this. And she doubts it. Even in that sense, she's doubting it.
Well, you would doubt it. I mean,
you would doubt it. Dude,
you were in there and she was like sliced to pieces and then you ran away. What do you expect?
Yeah, I like the idea of him being desperate and not knowing what to do. Of course, we get the cops taking him down. I like the fact that Nancy's dad is a prick. I'm sorry if we have to bleep that.
No.
He's not a nice man.
You're not wrong, but he's a good cop. Because he
horrible father.
Rodney. Yeah. Horrible father, great cop. Because he used his daughter as bait and he got his man.
Mm-hmm. It was unbelievable. We get to see after they get him, for some reason. Well, I think it's Nancy wanting to go to school. She doesn't want to be at home. She does want to go to school.
Yes.
But we see her in the next scene with Lynn Shay. Do you know who Lynn Shay is?
Yes, she is the star of the Insidious franchise. Because as I was watching this movie with my daughter this morning, I was like, hey, it's the Insidious lady.
Yes, Lynn Shay, who's obviously the wife of Robert Shay, who
Yes.
was smart enough to go, yes, please, we're a new studio, we need a franchise, come and make this movie here. Another one of my favourite scenes comes off the back of this, though, Jace, when she falls asleep in class.
Oh,
and
yes.
we get Body Bag Tina. Body Bag Tina
Oh my gosh.
creeps me out so much.
I love the fact that Body Bag Tina shows up in this movie, and at certain points it looks like the body bag is a wedding veil. I love that imagery. Because in certain scenes, I'm a big fan of the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland. In certain scenes, she looks like the bride in the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, okay.
And I just love that. Incidentally, I'm gonna stop us for a moment because at one point during this dream sequence, Nancy is running down the hallway and she runs into this girl wearing a striped sweater. And of course, where's your pass? Screw your pass, which is not a great delivery, but it's okay. I'm gonna forgive that. But yeah, the striped sweater is a giveaway that this is Freddy Krueger. You want to know the inspiration for that? The superhero Plastic Man was a big influence on this movie. Wes Craven gave Freddy Krueger the stripes because every time Freddy Krueger would take the form of something else, he wanted that thing to have the stripes incorporated into it. Because when Plastic Man turns into something else, he has the red costume with the yellow diamond and the yellow stripe. So we can thank Plastic Man for inspiring Wes Craven to give Freddy the stripes.
It's such a smart idea too, and I'm sure there've been some executive would have said, "Oh no, don't give it away. We could create mystery. You never know what." Watch Friday, the 13th Part 9, the final Friday, and you can see why having good telltale signs is probably important. I don't know why I mentioned that film again. Either way, I love the design of that red, and it's a dirty green.
Yes,
and it's a kind of close to a blood red. I don't know. I just like the juxtaposition of the colors.
Very iconic. As soon as you see it, you instantly know Freddy's there, and it's one of my favorite gags later on in another Wes Craven movie, Scream, the original Scream. The sweater makes a cameo, and Henry Winkler is leaving his office, and he's yelling at someone, and there's a janitor out there wearing the sweater, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, Fred," and he goes back inside.
I would say if this film has a weakness, it's probably around the hour mark. Well, actually, no, about 45 minutes to an hour. It does slow down a little bit. All right, and we start to get, when you talked about it being surreal, that's when the film really starts to go into surreal territory. But before we get there, we get some great more iconic moments. Another shot of the boiler room scene there from the same dream sequence as Body Bag Tina. Look at his design, Jace. Look at, they've really gone, that there's still flesh on his face, but it's kind of peeling off rather than the full burnt look that we get later on.
Yes.
It's really horrific. You know?
They wanted to actually go further with the burned look. Wes Craven actually wanted, whenever Freddy's mouth is closed, for example, he wanted the audience to be able to see teeth through the lips, but he was told by the makeup designer, yeah, that's going to cost a lot of money that you just don't have.
Yeah, translucent kind of burnt lips thing.
Yes.
If you would say, and I kept talking about certain iconic moments, but there is no more iconic moment in this film except for this, right?
Yes.
This is the moment. And why does it work so well? Because it's somebody at their most vulnerable, in a vulnerable position, not knowing that the horrors that might attack them.
Yes.
It's such a uncomfortable moment for so many levels. I mean, you know, from sexual to horror to violence, there's so much going on in that scene that it's a reason it resonates. It reason that the moment you see that picture, you know exactly the film we're talking about.
Yes, well, Freddy is a monster that does not play fair. As you said, he does go after you at your most vulnerable. Whenever you're in the bathtub, whenever you're in your tidy whities in your bedroom, whenever you are asleep, that is when he strikes. Because everybody, no matter who you are, no matter how tough or determined you are, eventually you have to let your guard down at some point or another, because you're just human, and that's when Freddy's waiting for you. And I think that is why he is so terrifying in this movie.
He is, and Freddy as a concept, it was so, like I said earlier, it was so different than anything else, is because you had such a vocal villain, who's someone who you knew was really enjoying the torture he was laying out, rather than godless, mindless beings that were just, killing for the sake of killing. He wasn't killing for the sake of killing. He was out in a long plot of revenge, and he was savouring every moment. It was just so wonderfully done. Did you know Roger Rabbit was in this film? Because he is.
Did. I met Charles Fleischer a long time ago in 2001, and whenever he popped up in this movie, I was like, shock! Yeah. It's so funny seeing somebody who's known, as one of the most beloved cartoon characters of all time showing up in a horror movie like this. I just wanted to see him say, Nancy, you have to sit down, please. I don't know.
That's hilarious. Hey, I love him, by the way. And I love the scene. And I'll tell you why I love the scene, because the scene really solidifies the fact and puts the whole situation. This is not a nightmare, Mum. This is not a nightmare, because out of that, we get to see her cut. We also get to see her pull out a hat.
Yes.
And so, the comments made, where did that come from? But there's still denial around the whole thing. But is it denial, Jason? At this point, is she just trying to hide something?
Oh, the mom is definitely trying to hide something. And I think she's getting a little sloshed because she knows something's up. And it's just denial not only to her daughter, but to herself, because she knows the past is coming back for her.
And this is where the film works on a really great level, where it does turn into not only what is happening, what is this all about, but now we get about the whole seedy, secrets that they're hiding, that the community is hiding. So there's another level of mystery. We do get the moment where she finally admits, the mum. Finally, Marge, her name is. Marge finally admits what the story was. That Fred Krueger can't hurt her anymore because Fred Krueger's dead. She knows because Mummy killed her. I did laugh at that line. Because Mummy killed him. Okay, I don't complain about much with this film, but why is she keeping the gloves in her furnace? What's the deal with that?
I don't know. Maybe she...
you burned him alive and then went, I'll just take this as a token.
This is a souvenir, that's all. I promise this isn't going to become a lifelong obsession.
Yes.
Mommy, why is there a jar full of baby teeth? Don't look at that, honey.
That's the one thing I went, really? You kept the knife? You kept the murder weapons? Wouldn't somebody who was a cop there, who was part of the community, or someone would have said, we've got to destroy them? I don't know. That was my only thing. The mother, probably not the strongest actress, but I really love her performing. I do like her melodramatic line readings. I get a bit of a laugh out of them. So, but yeah, we get uncovered that Freddy is indeed a child killer who got off because somebody didn't fill out the paperwork properly, and the town, as you said, like all the good urban myths, they get some revenge.
Oh, yeah.
I think this version of Freddy is the strongest version of Freddy.
Oh, absolutely.
We get.
Absolutely. This is peak Freddy. Freddy peaked early. Although New Nightmare does give it a run for its money. I will say.
Yeah, there's some really terrifying moments in that.
Yes.
And you know what, Jace, though? It's nice to have a film at starting off a giant horror franchise that really gives you the character all there.
Yes.
The last franchise we watched, the main character wasn't even in the first one. Halloween is just known as the shape. We don't really get much of kind of what's going on. So it's nice to have a well-formed villain straight off the bat.
Absolutely.
Really good.
Absolutely. I respect that.
The plan. Like, I kind of go, I didn't realise that we were getting some Kevin McAllister things happening here.
Hey, before we talk about that, though, can we talk about Glenn?
Yes.
Glenn's demise? Because that also takes place on the Ferris wheel from hell.
Yes.
The reason why it got the name Ferris Wheel of Hell is not because it was unpleasant to be on, which I'm sure it was, but it's because it nearly killed the entire crew.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're wanting to hear this now.
Yes, I am.
So they reuse the Ferris wheel from hell. They redress the bedroom into Glenn's bedroom. Glenn gets sucked down into the bed, and then all of this blood erupts from the bed in a glorious blood fountain. The way they did that, of course, was they turned the set upside down and poured blood through the hole and just had it fall with gravity.
Yeah.
What happened, though, was whenever the 500 gallons of blood, which was basically red water, got down onto the floor, it hit the lights and electrocuted many members of the crew. Now, fortunately, they were not injured and did not die, but that is why they labeled this set the Ferris wheel from hell, because it literally almost killed everybody. But thankfully, Wes Craven got the shot.
Yes.
So that was...
He got the shot because it comes down, it goes up, it comes down at a force.
It
You know what, there's a nice little touch in that little moment too, with all the blood, right? And then we said the last bits of blood. He leans it a bit, so you see the blood all kind of, that's on the ceiling, kind of moved to one end of the room.
Yes, very surreal.
It just added that little extra element of creepiness.
Yeah,
but,
there's another scene earlier that kind of lends to the surreal, because one can argue that this movie takes place entirely in a dream. One can make that argument. Yeah. And it is during the scene when Glenn is supposed to be watching Nancy while she's asleep, and he falls asleep, and Freddy attacks her, and he crawls across the bed and is slashing at her pillows, and the feathers are flying everywhere. Right before Glenn leaps out the window when her mom comes in, a single feather falls. And it's like, yeah, something's not right. Something's not right.
I actually question, especially in this third act, whether we're getting Inception level dream within a dream within a dream thing happening. This is where the confusion I had, because I was watching it again last night, and I'm going, are we actually... Is this the dream within the dream? Like you said, the whole thing could have been a dream. We don't know. They certainly end a movie by saying the whole thing's been a dream. So how many levels of dreams are in this? You know? That's where I get really confused at the end of it. Delightfully so. I like the fact that I don't know the answer to it.
I like movies that are not concrete in their answers, because you can talk about them and you can debate them. That's the last episode of Lost, for example. Everyone hated the last episode of Lost because it didn't give you all the answers. But I loved it because it didn't give you all the answers. I love that you can sit there and debate and still talk about it today and say, what did this mean? I don't know. What did that mean?
Exactly. I agree. But the plan they have up, like that whole plan of what she's going to do, she goes all Kevin McAllister because she's been reading booby trap books. I kind of like, mind you, I'm like, you had all that stuff at home? Like, you had all the right wiring.
Well, her dad is a cop, and her mom apparently keeps serial killer memorabilia in the basement.
It's all good. But it's not a dumb plan. It's a smart plan.
It's a smart plan, yes.
She can pull him out, you know? Which I think was the missed opportunity of this film. When it does happen, and we do get the battle, and he does bring her out, I just would have liked him just to be just slaughtered by like Glenn and, well, Glenn's dead by that point, but the dad and all that kind of thing. I like the idea of going, well, you just don't exist. I invalidate you.
Yeah. And just like Tinkerbell.
Yeah, and then, but I like the idea. I just don't like the execution of him turning like he's in the middle of Tron with a blue effect. And he falls.
Yeah, that was not good. I would have just
Not
preferred
good.
I would just preferred to him to have just faded rather than
Yes.
have that animation there. I think it would have been a lot more
Or
effective.
just back and go back into where he was, cursing her. Basically going, you'll fucking die, bitch. Or I'll bleep all that out, by the way. That'll be all bleeped out. You didn't see that. Yeah, so that's what I kind of would have liked. But the film does abruptly kind of really finish up very hurriedly, don't you think?
Yes,
For
it
a
does.
film that was paced so ethereal, was so dreamlike, we end it in a very rushed dream. But it works for me. And I mean, like, I like Freddie Carr, the Freddie Mobile.
Yep,
I'm
there's
down with the Freddie
there's the
Mobile.
stripes again. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's Freddy.
Yeah,
That's not a car.
I deal with that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Before we can finish that too, can I just, because it's the most disgusting moment in this whole film, I think anyway, is Freddie Phone.
Freddy Phone.
Freddie Phone. So, and is almost, Jason. The reason I want to mention that is the beginning. A lot of that kind of David Cronenberg technology body horror mix that we
Yes.
get throughout Freddy, which I absolutely adore.
Heather Langenkamp loved that prop so much, by the way, that she asked to take it home with her.
I would have too.
Yeah, I mean it's great. You know, Wes Craven thought it was weird. I don't know if Heather ended up getting it or not. I hope she did. I really hope she took it home. But yeah, it's a great moment. I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I don't, however, because it always looked fake, even the first time I saw it, is the mum getting sucked through the, pulled through the window of the front door.
Yeah, it looks ridiculous.
It looks ridiculous. It's so rubber, it's not funny.
Yeah. Interesting thing. This is the only Nightmare on Elm Street movie that features the Elm Street house with a blue door. The rest of the movies, it's a red door.
Are you sure? You're blowing my mind with this,
No.
Jason.
It's the only one that shows it as a blue door.
Blue door, wow. I had no idea that they even changed it, because for me, that's the most iconic thing about this whole series is the house. You know, it's Freddy, it's the house. The house plays an important part, as we know, throughout the whole series, all the way up, I think, till 6, doesn't it? I mean, that house plays...
And it's interesting also that never once in the movie do they ever say the words Elm Street.
No.
No, the name of the street is never mentioned. Yeah, it's very odd. It's kind of like the Friday the 13th movie where they never mention Jason by name and you never realize it. But yeah, they never talk about Elm Street in this movie.
It's actually, I'll be interested to know why that title.
I'm guessing because Elm Street is kind of a generic name. So every town has an Elm Street is what they say elsewhere. My hometown, our school was actually on Elm Street. And so we did call it the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I think that's it. Every town has an Elm Street.
Jason, this for me is a really strong first entry into the Strand Five.
It's an incredibly strong entry.
Yeah. You know, this is kind of on the level where, because we've come from the Friday the 13th, nifty first movie, but not the strongest. You know, because it was different. To this being like, you know, Halloween, the first, very effective, very kind of, you know, and again, against the norm, when you've only really got silent killers who are just mindless beings, to have a charismatic, an evil, a torturous, disfigured, horrible demon character, brilliant.
Yes, and a good gamble for New Line, because that studio was going under whenever they distributed A Nightmare on Elm Street. So much so, this movie was such a success that New Line was nicknamed the studio that Freddy built.
Yep.
And just talk about a couple of connections, because we always like to talk about connections to previous movies that we have talked about.
Okay, please. I didn't even think about this shit this week.
Wes Craven helped Sean S. Cunningham by working on a few shots for Friday the 13th, 1980. In return, Cunningham directed a few shots near the end of production for this movie. So Wes Craven directed a scene in Friday the 13th, and Sean S. Cunningham directed a scene in Nightmare on Elm Street. Kane Hodder auditioned to play Freddy Krueger. He did not get the part, but he did go on to play Jason Voorhees and played Freddy in Jason Goes to Hell because he was Freddy's arm. So he did eventually get to play Freddy.
Very cool. Can we talk about Robert Englund then? Because we haven't talked about Robert Englund.
Let's talk about Robert Englund.
Robert Englund, who I only knew of playing the friendly alien from the V series, is what I knew him from. What a find Wes got with Robert Englund, who's just brought something to that role that is so unique. I don't think anyone else, I mean, they've tried, haven't they?
They have.
Jackie Earle Haley couldn't do it.
And Jackie Earle Haley is a magnificent actor.
And he couldn't do it.
But he could not capture Freddy Krueger, no.
Robert Englund, like, is just unbelievable. From the moment that you first see him on here to even in, you know, the last time we see him in Freddy v. Jason. Just so iconic. He kind of reminds me, he's kind of like what Harrison Ford says about Indiana Jones. He's Indiana Jones. When he dies, Indiana Jones, that's it. You don't recast it.
Yeah.
He's it. And I kind of starting to think that about Freddy. Is Freddy lives and dies with the actor Robert Englund?
I think so. Well, Robert Englund has got a very unique face. You recognize him the moment you see him, no matter what he's doing. I remember watching a movie a long time ago called The Mangler, which was a horrible movie. But there was this, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
There's this old man in The Mangler, and as soon as you see the old man, I'm like, that's Robert Englund. He's underneath all that prosthetic. You just instantly recognize him. And Robert Englund, he's got this casual creepiness, I guess. Yeah. Even whenever he's not the bad guy, there's something about him that just puts you on guard. And I'm not insulting the man. I mean, he is an iconic horror legend as far as I'm concerned.
Once Mark Hamill's roommate too.
Oh,
when they were young.
Wow, I did not know that.
They went on auditions together.
Nice, very good. Boy, can you imagine Robert Englund as Luke Skywalker?
He did audition for Star Wars. Robert Englund's come out and said he did read the script. He read the script back in 73 or 4 when they got it released. So, yeah, interesting.
Well, that would have been interesting.
But we never would have got Freddy. Thank God, because I'm hit a spoiler alert for number 2. I like the film. All right. And we'll talk about what it apparently represents and all that. I like it. I don't care. I like even Freddy's Dead is a guilty pleasure. This is a series that I adored as a teenager. Oh,
sorry, I'm cringing. Sorry.
Why? About part 2 or 6?
6. I'm cringing. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, I can't really forgive it. I can't forgive. Now it's time to put your 3D glasses on. Yeah. Yeah, you know what, again?
Please remove your 3D glasses.
Glasses, yeah. Now, based upon that is the coda that, remember the last series, guys? I told you how much I loved part 3 and I loved this. Memory can get distorted with nostalgia, and I'm sure I may find out this. But I did watch number 2 in the last couple of years and I did enjoy it, so I'm standing by that one.
It's been a while since I've watched number 2, but I do remember not enjoying it.
I like it. I like the bus opening. I like the fact that maybe I didn't get it as a kid. You know what? That's for another time, guys. Yep. It's not right now we're talking about number 2. We've talked about number 1. We both love it, but it's really a more important time right now, Jason. The Wheel.
No, it's so beautiful. I missed it.
It is beautiful. Jace, all right. I get you to do this every time we do this. I want you to put out your hopes and dreams for what category we're going to be landing on.
I am still pulling for animation. I love animation. I want to see more animation. Keep drama. Don't want drama. I want animation.
Yeah. Let's find out, Jace. Let's spin that wheel. Let's see where it goes, where we're going to land. We're staying in the world of comedy.
Comedy.
Nothing wrong with comedy. So, all right, let's open up that genre and let's see what's happening in the world of comedy. Now, there are so many things here. There are so many choices. Maybe as an Aussie, wouldn't mind seeing Young Einstein or Crocodile Dundee come up. Why not? Bit of 80s Aussie comedy.
Cannonball Run is still on there.
Is it? I like that film so much. I think that's supposed to be number 2. I'll add number 2.
Okay.
That's been a miss. I think it's actually, it is supposed to be number 2.
I wouldn't mind revisiting Back to the Beach. I just remember seeing that as a kid and thinking, this is so much fun. It's so stupid, and I love it.
Yeah, and I didn't even know at the time that was based off a whole franchise.
Clue
from
is
the
still
60s?
on the. Clue is still there too. You
I
are
didn't remove Clue.
fired. You are fired.
You got to fire the guy that done the will. They didn't get rid of Clue. Well, you know what? Let's see
Kentucky
if we
Fried
spin
Movie is
it
on
again.
there too.
I think
What
you're
is
going to
wrong
clean
with
some
you?
up.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to clean up the wheel. What am I going to say? I thought I press remove every time we do it.
Oh my gosh. See,
If we land on it, we got to watch it again. No,
we're going to be punished by karma, and it's going to land on Soul Man.
It's going to happen one day, but is it now, Jace?
It's our code of honor.
Let's find out. Let's find out. Yes, I'll take that.
Okay,
The video from UHF.
So anyway, that's the Australian title.
Yeah.
For those of us living here in America, we're talking about Weird Al Yankovic's UHF.
UHF.
Which is, I have never seen all the way through.
You've never seen it all the way through?
I've never seen it all the way through. I've seen the last half of it, and I just remember laughing so hard. And I don't know why I've never watched it all the way through.
It has, it's got one problematic actress in it. We won't get into Victoria Jackson too much, but it does have someone who's not problematic, Rigel Richards. Kidding, I'm sorry. It's not Weird Al's fault.
Is everyone in this movie besides Weird Al some kind of weird racist?
Yeah, a little bit. No, this is a fun movie. It's a silly movie. It's a wacky movie. It'll be good to go back and do it. Fran Drescher's in this thing.
I love Fran Drescher. I don't care what anybody says. I love the woman.
Yeah, the nanny. I've seen every episode like 3 or 4 times.
Mr. Sheffield.
Exactly, and Moriarty's in it, who's absolutely amazing in the nanny. So, no, this film you've never seen all the way through. Well, it looks like you are this time. You're going to have to get into it. This, the video from UHF, the Aussie version, that is. It's a film that me and my mates played all the time. We dug it big time. It was so different, so off-center. It was just fun to watch. So I'm looking.
And being as big of a fan of Weird Al as I am, I'm surprised I've never watched this all the way through.
Yeah, and it's a great excuse now to do it because, as we know, I mean, this was made in '89, and maybe Weird Al had been around a decade, perhaps by then. Very strong decade. Yeah. Look what he's done since then. You know what I mean? Like, guy goes from strength to strength to strength. So,
if you have not seen the Weird Al movie on Roku, I highly recommend it.
It's a great film.
Daniel Radcliffe is great, and the movie is just fantastic. It's
we talk about a bit about this on the show. It's about tone, and it's about like the pacing and the energy, and that's like it just feels Weird Al, that movie. Like the way they shot it, the timing of the jokes, the scene, the surrealism of it all. It is just Weird Al in every microfiber of its essence. It's there. So I look forward to watching UHF with you because I've not seen UHF. I've seen the video from UHF. So
that's okay. I've never seen the video from VHF. I've only seen part of UHF. So
there you go. So we go into some interesting movies coming up, guys, because we've got this one next, and after that, it's time for Freddy's Revenge with Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Believe it or not, as an 11-year-old, and this was an X movie for American rating, the lady at the cinema said, "Here's your ticket, sir." So I got to see this.
She was not paid enough to say no. It's just like, here, whatever.
Yeah, it was very much like that. But
that's how I saw Creep Show 2. She's like, we don't care, just take it.
Just take it, just go. So I look forward to talking about both these films in the next coming weeks. All right, guys, that's been your host, VHS Jason, of course, our talented, well, all the talent on the show, Jason Roy Gaston.
It's true.
And we'll see you guys next time. See ya.
Check out SpectrumSanctorum.net for all of our podcast merch. We have an entire merch store ready to give you all the things that you loved about our podcasts. And get notified on all of our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our Spectrum Sanctorum merch store. Follow us today and be sure to hit that bell when you're watching our YouTube videos so you can be notified of when a new episode releases.